Okay, that's it.
Yay!
Thank you.
I think that the main happiness is that I'm able to do what I want and being like really passionate about that. And I'm not just like driven by money, so I don't know, it's just that doing film is what I really want to do, so it makes me happy.
If you're a poet. If you're a poet, you can write a poem that maybe, I don't know, 100 other people read, and that's a big success. Because not that many people read poetry to begin with, unless you're a very famous poet. And so your audience is much smaller, and you can be much more personal. A little bit more if you're in fiction. You can write something very personal, and you'll reach a wider audience because there'll be enough people interested. With a movie, you have to reach an awful lot of people because they're so expensive to make, to distribute, to get into theaters, or even just to get onto TV, or on the internet even, that you have to think about your audience. And so, rather than it just being what I'm interested in, I have to then also turn it around and look at why am I interested in it? Why is it a movie I would want to go see? And think about that from the audience point of view. So, with my students, I always ask them, if you're going to write a movie, if you're going to write a screenplay for a movie, why is this the movie you would want to go see? Because if you want to go see it, and you know that that's the first movie you choose, then a lot of other people might as well. But you have to put yourself in a strange way before you start writing in the audience's point of view, because you want to say, I want to see that movie, as opposed to, I want to write this movie.
One of the dangers, especially if you're writing for film and television, if you're trying to write what you think an audience wants to see or what you think an audience wants to understand, is then, because everything is a trend and everything is cyclical, and right now vampires are hot, but in 6 months they won't be, or the Harry Potter books ignited, and if you're trying to chase a trend, you're always going to be behind the trend. So the writers that actually succeed are the ones who have original ideas and fresh ideas and are creating things that they're passionate about and excited about, because then that's where the truth and the ability for an audience to connect to comes from, the idea that it's fresh and original and something they can relate to, as opposed to, I've already seen that, or that's something I've seen done over and over again, and it just loses that freshness and the originality. So I would encourage all writers, write from your heart, write what you know, write what you're passionate about, and if you do a good job, the audience will follow. Yeah, and it's very much what I was saying earlier, that I think, you know, you really have to understand, especially with kids, of how much they take away from what they watch. And there was a phase for my son that he was watching The Wizard of Oz every day for 2 months. And, you know, the underlying themes of The Wizard of Oz, aside from the fantasy and the witches and the lion and all, is about friendship. And it's about needing to get back home again and how much home matters and caring about the people that love you. And if that's what he's taken away from watching it for every 2 months, is family matters and friends matter and loyalty matters, that's a good thing. And so I think, you know, you do have to be responsible, you do have to be aware, and it also becomes a very personal choice. But I was never interested in writing a slasher movie, or I didn't want to write a movie that was about violence to women or things that, you know, to me personally were unacceptable, so why would I want to write about that?
I think at this point in time, the best thing that a student who's interested in writing for drama, for playwriting or screenwriting, can do, I think they should write plays, because plays are easier to get out there and get performed, and they can see whether it works because you have actual actors doing it. It's not that hard to put on a play. So it's very useful, especially if you're developing your dialogue skills and your storytelling skills. If you're writing screenplays, I think what's happening all the time now is people are finding ways to take advantage of the internet. I don't think full-length movies work on the internet because no one has that kind of attention span. The internet is a short attention span theater. But webisodes, short funny pieces, are a great way to learn how to do a kind of compressed storytelling, to figure out how to write something that needs to be filmed or videotaped, and to get it out there and get responses, because especially on YouTube you get people reacting to your work, so you get a sense of whether it's any good. Is it getting people excited? Once you've begun to develop that, then you can move on into writing feature screenplays. I think the Hollywood industry is shrinking. I think that's a very tough place to break in. It always has been, but it's harder than ever now. But the independent film world and ways of finding the resources to make a little movie using a video, which is very good right now, and finding ways to get it distributed through festivals and word of mouth, I think that's the way to go right now. I think trying to sell a big script to a Hollywood movie studio is basically like trying to win the lottery. It's just really, really hard unless you come to that studio with a body of work that you've already done. And you can say, I have this incredibly popular YouTube video, and I've done these webisodes, which have gotten 500,000 hits, and I wrote this play that was... Then you come to a studio with a screenplay, they're going to pay attention to you. Otherwise, they just won't.
I will tell them to really follow their dreams, because I know it's sometimes hard, like telling your parents that you want to be a filmmaker, and most of them are going to tell you that, well, like, filmmaking is not really a profitable, like, career, but if you are really passionate about it and you really want to do that, just go for it and try to do your best and be creative.
I think the biggest piece of advice is, simultaneous to writing, you have to be living your life. And so part of your responsibility as students and while you're in college is to expose yourself to as many different people and as many different opportunities. And if you have the opportunity to study abroad, do that. If you have the opportunity to attend events in Los Angeles that are going on, do that. And especially if writing is what you're interested in, you have to have experiences to write about. And so the more you get out of your comfort zone and the more you push yourself to do things you might necessarily not have done otherwise, you should be doing it. And the more life you have, and the more experiences you have, and the more diverse your friends are, and the places you go and the things you do, the more you're going to have to write about.
You should learn from somebody that knows more. So however you can get your hands on the gear, but you need to get your hands on it to understand what it does.